Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nevada Women's Film Festival Script Supervisor panel. My name is Veronica Castillo, and running behind the scenes, I also have my partner, Jemsen Yumico Bollozos. Both of us are part of Eccentric Artists, and we are working as the festival's executive committee this year. So without further ado, I would like to personally introduce to you our moderator for today. Caryn Ruby's work has been featured on Good Morning America, The Wendy Williams Show, and in Newsweek. She's co-hosted several weekly comedy shows, most notably Midnight Parade, the late night talk show at Chicago's Second City. Also talented behind the camera, Caryn is an accomplished script supervisor. She's worked alongside Oscar and Emmy Award-winning crew on award-winning films, including the Women in Media Camaraderie Initiative Grand Prize-winning film, Blood and Glory with Tribeca. She will soon launch her new podcast, Script Supervisors, Unsung Heroes, Film and TV. So thank you, Caryn, for being here, and I'll let you take over.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for this panel. We have an amazing group of script supervisors for you today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce everybody. First, we have Dawn Gilliam. Dawn's multi-decade career as a script supervisor began with Boys in the Hood, and since then she has consistently worked on groundbreaking and Academy Award-winning and nominated films such as Black Panther, Fences, Star Wars Episode 9, and literally dozens of films and TV shows you've no doubt seen. A fierce advocate for gender parity and equality, she previously served as the president of the IATSE Union Local 871 for script supervisors and is currently working with a group of veteran script supervisors to advocate for real change in the craft. Since 1995, she has taught the craft of script supervising through her online course, The Art of Continuity. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you.
We also have Sharon Watt. In addition to being one of the administrators of New York Script Supervisors Network, Sharon has worked on many Golden Globe and Emmy award-winning films and TV shows, such as The Americans, Pose, When They See Us, Boardwalk Empire, The Night of, and Mr. Robot. Fun fact, Sharon designed the logo for Script Supervisors Unsung Heroes of Film and TV podcast coming soon. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, everyone.
We also have Hannah Driscoll. Hannah has been a full-time Los Angeles-based script supervisor since 2015. In that time, she has worked on all types of projects, from the Emmy Award-nominated Pen 15 and Adam Ruins Everything to big-budget commercials for well-known national brands. She has an online course, Script Supervising 101, that's available for beginning script supervisors. For fun, she hosts a podcast called John Wick Deep Dives, where she overanalyzes John Wick scenes with film industry professionals. Hi, Hannah.
Hey, everyone.
We also have Shadia Sepehrnia. In addition to her experience as a script supervisor on Tribeca award-winning short series Girls Room, written by Lena Waithe, and many films, Shadia counts producing, directing, and writing among her many talents. Good morning or afternoon, Shadia.
Hi.
Hey. Also, we have Penny Patrick. Penny began her script supervising career in Los Angeles in 1988 and has worked on television series and many independent films, most notably The Hangover. After moving to Las Vegas in the year 2000, she continued working in the film industry, predominantly in the commercial world. She developed a script supervision course for UNLV Film, where she teaches part-time. Hey, Penny.
Hi.
Guys, I'm just drunk on excitement. I am so excited. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have Ashley Patterson. Ashley is an Atlanta-based script supervisor who has worked on all types of productions, from independent films and commercials to Emmy and Golden Globe winning TV show Atlanta, and the NAACP Image Award and BET Award winning Being Mary Jane, as well as upcoming blockbuster The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt and J.K. Simmons. She balances her time working and raising her two daughters. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, everybody.
Yay!
Hi, Ashley.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. So I'm gonna start with one question for everybody, and we'll just go around the Zoom screen in the order that I see you guys. So it'll be Dawn, then Penny, then Ashley, then Shadia, then Sharon, then Hannah, and if you forget, I'll remind you.
Okay.
So I'd love to hear from everyone, why or how did you choose script supervising as a career? Dawn.
Okay, so I'm first. Well, I was already talent. So I was working in front of the camera. I was started as a dancer. And so I started to kind of look around and realize that I did like being on the set. And I was getting kind of tired of auditioning, even though I was working. And someone said that they were like the secretary on the set. And I'm old school secretary. That's what I grew up to go to school to be. And so that resonated with me. And I went and I got Pat Miller's book out of the library and started reading it and found out it was information that I knew, I just didn't know what it was called. So I was paying attention. And that's kind of how I got started.
Nice. Thank you. Penny?
Hi. Well, I was working, I had moved to LA, which of course is big for the industry. And I had a friend that was doing craft services. And I went to a few sets with her and just kind of poked around and watched what was going on. I had a lot of friends in TV. I knew a lot of producers in TV. And I just decided, I think I want to be a script supervisor. So I found somebody to teach me privately. And back then you could look on Dramalog and Backstage West and get your jobs. Mm-hmm. Started with a couple of free jobs and then, just progressed from there. So I love it. I love it. And I love teaching it too. So it's great.
Amazing. Thank you, Penny. Ashley?
I was in film school and I had an opportunity to go with a good friend of mine who was getting like her first directing job, and she was like, I want you to come. And I was like, I want to come. I wanted to work on it. And I had just heard another script supervisor had come and into the film school and had talked about what she did. Mary Cebulski on she was on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind at the time, and it was like fascinating. And I was like, I think I could do that. So I also got Pat Miller's book and read through it, and then I went and it was my first indie movie. It was just a really cool opportunity, and I just have stuck with it because I really enjoyed what I was doing and kept going.
Love it. Shadia?
So I knew I wanted to do writing and directing, so I really wanted to be on a film set so I could learn. And I thought about what the different positions were, and I knew like being a PA is where everybody starts out, but it just didn't seem like they had a chance to be part of the process. So I was thinking, like, what's a job I could do where I get to actually be in the thick of the action, shadow a director, watch how they interact with actors, and then also have a chance to read the script. This is what I want to do, is write. So I randomly decided I would jump on a set, and friends needed a script supervisor. I wasn't really sure what that was. So I asked another script supervisor to help train me a little bit. And then from there, I just started working on student films, and it just kept going.
Nice. Sharon, how did you get started?
I got started because I was interning, and I was interning as a director's assistant. So it was actually that director who kind of recommended it to me, because I was kind of working more in the production office, and he could tell that I really wanted to be on set because I really love craft. I just love to know how things are made. So I think one day he sort of said, like, you're already organized, you'd be good at this. And I kind of knew what it was, but I actually didn't think it was that interesting, my idea at the time of what it was. And then he recommended me for a project, and I sort of kind of self-taught myself, like reading the Pat Miller book at the time. And of course, like once I started to do it, I realized that it was way more interesting than I had thought. It kind of just like satisfies that part of me where, you just want to sort of put things together and sort of see the whole picture and have everything in place. And, I think all of us have a little bit of that we kind of need to sort of satisfy, that we can sort of like control things. But yeah, I kind of like the autonomy of it. I like the fact that you're kind of you're kind of your own boss.
Right.
Nice. And last but not least, Hannah.
So I was in film school studying screenwriting, and I needed some on-set experience, and I chose the job with script in the title. And I'm like, okay, there's a script here. Let's see how hard this is. I got to supervise it. And totally blown away. Yeah, much harder. I got the Pat Miller book in college, and I just ingested it, and I learned everything I could. So I did script supervising for everyone's student film in college and a little bit outside of it. I did take 5 years off to do some marketing, but I came back and I took Randy Feldman's classes just to get a little bit of a brush up since I had taken 5 years off. And I absolutely love it too. It's so nice, like you said, Sharon, the autonomy of it. And I love being able to see the final cut in my brain and kind of just being a part of the process with the director and the DP. It's very rewarding and satisfying.
Nice. One common thread, pretty much nobody for their whole life grew up and said, one day I'm going to be a supervisor, right? Like we all found it in our different ways. For the audience, Pat Miller's book is called Script Supervising and Film Continuity. Is this going to work? Is this going to, anyway, you can look it up. It's one of the books in the craft.
Well, it's one of those jobs where, like nobody tells you that it exists, because if we do our job well, then nobody really knows that we exist.
Yeah, right.
Except we're going to change that, right, ladies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're up to. Okay, awesome. What we're going to do now is go through some individual questions for people. But of course, if anyone has on the panel any comments or something to contribute, please feel free. This is a conversation, not a series of interviews. We're going to start with a question for Sharon. You've worked on some amazing and culture shifting shows, like When They See Us, Pose, The Americans, all these amazing shows. What does it feel like working on such important shows? And does it give you an added sense of pressure to get it right? And if so, how do you manage that pressure?
Well, I do like working on drama, and I do appreciate working on drama that's based on real life, on real events. It gives you an opportunity to do more research if that's what you like to do. I think like when you're trying to get to know a story, you want to know the story as much as possible, so if that involves, learning more about the culture and society at the time, or important events at that time, then you can totally go on a deep dive with that, when I worked on The Americans, I knew a little bit about like US-Soviet relationships, but that show is like so nuanced and there's so much subtext that you kind of just want to sort of make sure that you're understanding all the layers. With Pose, I didn't know anything about the 1980s ball scene at all. So just watching Paris is Burning, that documentary, was really an eye-opening experience. And for When They See Us, there's so much material about the events that happened and the aftermath and the trial and everything. But just in terms of what we do as script supervisors, breaking down the script, just working out the chronology of events and things like that, there's so much mining that you can do for the details to try and sort of put everything in place, but I think, you're always aware that you're working on something that's fictionalized, so of course, things like dates might shift, might not be the most accurate. Sometimes there might be some people involved that they might create a character that sort of combines two people, so that's kind of what happens when things are dramatized, so you're there to serve the story, so you're there to know as much as you can about the story so that you understand, the story you're telling and the vision of the person who's telling it, so you can be there as supportive as you can. And I think that's true not just in projects that are based on real events, but any story, every story has an integrity. And I think a script supervisor's job is to be there to sort of protect the integrity of the story and to make sure that the truth of the story is there and to make sure the story is being told as best it can, you know, and that's true of every job. And in terms of pressure, I think, you know, for every project you work on, the pressure is always there for you to be on top of the material. You know, so if there's other stuff to sort of look at, you know, then, and you have the time to do that, then, and you enjoy doing that, you know, absolutely go for it. You know, but I think in terms of pressure, it's just prep, and more prep. That's, you know, how we put ourselves in a position to do the best that we can.
Copy that. Awesome. That was really great. Thank you. Our next question is for Hannah. What was it like when you found out that Pen 15 was nominated for an Emmy? Did it change anything on set from before to after the nomination?
You know, it's funny. The first season was literally like summer camp. We're such a small, relatively small crew and cast, and we were having so much fun. It is so great working with Maya and Anna, and they're so collaborative. And we're all pretty much the same age, so we all grew up in the year 2000. We were in middle school, high school, and you know, it felt like we were just making this little show. And then when that happened, we were like, oh my gosh, other people watch this show and they really care about it. And I feel like this sense of pride because I pour my entire heart and soul into that show. It's a little bit trickier to script supervise because a lot of stuff changes last minute as most TV does. And Maya and Ann are very, very collaborative, and they always let me know if something changes, which is really nice of showrunners, because we don't always get that heads up. And just to maintain the continuity of the year 2000 is also really stressful because it has to match. I mean, and then knowing that we got nominated, I'm like, oh my gosh, people are watching this. We have to be doubly on continuity. So there's even like this, it's like a Livestrong, the yellow armbands, you know, the Livestrong ones that you see everywhere in the early 2000s. They actually came out after this show is dated because I set the date and time for this whole show so that everyone can be on the same page. And props department came up to me and they were like, wait a second, I think this came out after. And I'm like, don't put it on anything. Like, we have to be period appropriate. So yeah, just getting the nomination was really validating that we were doing the right thing, and that it helped me feel a sense of pride that my hard work really did pay off, doing long days and managing the continuity of this technically period piece show. So yeah.
Totally awesome. Yeah. And that's a really good point about like sticking the show in an exact year and time. And that's something that a lot of script supervisors do behind the scenes. It's not always written in the script what the date is, but in order to keep track of the show or the film, we like to anchor it in a time so that we know, well, that's actually going to be a Saturday. So maybe school wouldn't be happening that day.
Exactly. And there's a lot of school stuff. I mean, I knew that we were going to be shooting in a school, and I knew there's going to be clocks, there's going to be blackboards, everything. And I'm like, okay, I got to get a date for everything. And the DP was really, really cool about asking me that stuff. Andy Rzuski, he always wanted to know time of day too, for the sunlight coming in and everything. Very collaborative group of people. So yeah, even dates that you see and the sun location in the sky. It's so vital to set a time of day. Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that's what continuity is too. It's kind of, you know, I think some people sort of think that we're just kind of sort of trying to find like a sort of date and a time just because we just need to sort of arrange things and pick things. But, you know, it's like continuity is time and space. It's events happening in continuous space in time that moves forward, you know. So of course, time is very important to us, and putting that in its universe is kind of at the heart of what we do.
Yeah.
Clocks on set. Great. Okay. Our next question is for Dawn. You are arguably one of the most well-known and successful script supervisors in the business. If you had a chance to start your career over again, what, if anything, would you do differently?
Well, first, I put my panties on one leg at a time like everybody else. So I'm not, no big deal. You know, yes, I've had a blessed career and I'm very, very thankful. If I would have started all over again, what would I have done? I've learned so much from Script Supervisor. I've learned to be a filmmaker, so I wouldn't start all over again. I think the one thing that I would do is that I would learn people's names better. I'm horrible. Everyone knows who we are because either our name is on the chair or
Right.
now they call your name all the time. But learning other people's names and keeping contact, because you just don't know what you're going to be doing in like 10 years, and that you might want to say, hey, I worked with that person. I wish I could like get to them. And then you didn't make any kind of connection or get their email address. So I think that that's the biggest thing for me, was that I didn't keep the contacts and I didn't really learn people's names like I should.
That's really good advice. Yeah, I'm not so great.
You just don't know where you're going to be in, like, especially if you're using this particular craft as a transitioning to other spaces, be it directing or screenwriters, as they've said. And it is going to be, this is a relationship type of business. You build and form relationships so that you can transition to another area. And these people that you met along the way are going to be the ones that's going to help you out. So yeah, that was my biggest mistake. I was like, I'm doing better now, but yeah, I could like, oh, I remember I used to work with that person or that actor or, that type of thing, and never really made a connection to be able to continue on after the project.
Of course, now with IMDb, it's maybe a little bit more helpful. Who was that?
I know.
So the next question is a question for anyone and everyone. I'd like you to describe a day on the job for someone who has no idea what we do.
Oh, wow.
Because there's a typical day.
That's a loaded question.
I know, that's why I brought it up.
Okay, I'll start.
Great.
Okay. I'll start and then I'll stop and then someone can take over. So the first, a day on the set, especially the first day, you find the first AD, you introduce yourself to him. Then he, pardon me?
Or her.
Or her, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Yes, you introduce yourself to him or her. You can usually tell because they're in the middle of the set wandering around with a walkie-talkie, and a microphone and trying to organize everything that's going on. And this is how I tell my students to find the first AD. Then at that point, you can go get your coffee because it's going to be a while before they're ready for you to be sitting in your chair before they're ready to roll film. So you find where the monitors are, you find, and usually your chairs and the monitors will be all set up for you right there on the set off to the side. I always take the inside chair so that the director can get in and out easily. So that's how I start my day. Would somebody like to continue?
I sort of describe my job as just standing by to answer questions all day long. I kind of feel that you're there just to make sure that nobody gets confused, and you're there to sort of observe and sort of like watch everything and take in everything and
Right.
listen and learn, and then step in when you need to. I remember there's a really well-known New York script supervisor called Mary Bailey, and I think like somebody asked her a similar question one time, and she just did an impression of somebody who was just like looking thoughtful, silent for minutes on end. And I was like, that's a perfect description, because on the surface it kind of looks like we're not really doing much at all, but inside our heads, like the synapses are firing, and we're sort of like thinking, we're making judgments, we're kind of like putting things in the right place, trying to think of what's missing, trying to think of whether something fits in exactly the right place or if something could be better. And it's kind of like we're just thinking like a million thoughts inside, but on the surface of it, we just look like we're just in deep thought all the time.
And you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to continue the day and say I get my sides, or I get the storyboards organized, and I just kind of go over the materials again, even though I already prepped them, just to make sure I know what's going on. I get the schedule from the AD. unless it's been emailed to me, just so that I can basically, like Sharon said, stand by and be ready to answer questions, because there's always a question right when you walk in, like, how much time do I have? What are we shooting first? What goes on the slate?
Right.
How long is this frame going to be? And, you know, even like who's talking in this from sound department or something like that. There's always somebody who's asking a question. So I always want to make sure I double, triple know what we're doing for the day, so that I can just be there and answer the questions as calmly as possible.
And I don't know about you, but I'm also asking some questions, you know,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
what are the lens? What's the lens we're using? Because sometimes I'm always trying to get that, and certain other things. Anyone else, or should we? That's it.
And the paperwork, don't forget the paperwork. We do a lot of like writing or scribbling or typing.
I try to get all that done in the morning. Like that's one of the first things I do. I try to prep the PR like the day is going to be exactly as planned, because I find that's more helpful for me. It's like setting an intention for the day, like we will do this. And then also like for all the math, it's like, you know, fresh and whatever the beginning of the day is, and then I don't have to worry about it as much. I can just deal with continuity and scenes and doing all that kind of stuff towards the, you know,
Right. The PR is the progress report that we're keeping track of everything.
Yes.
The math is us calculating the scenes and how many eighths each scene is, and tracking whether they've been finished or not, and making sure that we know what's been shot, what hasn't been shot, if we still owe some insert or something from one scene so that it doesn't get lost. Dawn, you were raising your hand.
Oh, I was going to talk about that on a particular day, you could be having revisions. You could either have a revision that comes to you midday, morning, or you're right there creating the revisions because they decided that they, especially in film, that they did not like the scene, or they're adding to it or creating it. So being able to deal with revisions on the set can happen any given day. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and that's important because in continuity, we got to make sure that the new revision, does it fit? Is there something that doesn't work out and then we have to get a reshoot, or all of those things too?
Well, one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of times when an actor wants to ad lib and create their own version of what they're supposed to say, because it is true, sometimes they just can't get those words out their mouth for whatever reason, flow. But sometimes they will be doing an ad lib and they're ad libbing as them as a person and not the character. And so we have to be there, say, that really doesn't sound like this character, or you have really changed the meaning of this particular sentence by saying an R instead of they or whatever, you know, that type of thing. So we have to like really be on top of even what it is that they're changing, of which I find that happens a lot. And a lot of people, that's why they have writers and pay them all that money, is because they hear the tone of that character. And so when an actor just kind of comes up with their own, they're really coming up with their own as them as a person, not as the character.
Right. And a lot of times we're the only person that's going to know that, even though you think the director would know these things and be on top of it, but they're running through 800,000 other things and they sometimes miss things. So we're really a good background for the director as well on those issues. Great. Oh, I also want to point out for our audience that's watching, we're going to do audience questions at the end. So if you start to have questions or you want to have an answered question, put it in the chat in the Eventive and it'll get fed to me, and then I can ask your question for any or all of these amazing script supervisors. Okay, we're going to go back to some individual questions, but again, pipe in, conversation, all that. Penny.
Yes.
What do you wish all filmmakers knew about the job of script supervisor?
Oh boy, okay. I wish that they all knew that we spent a couple of weeks with these scripts before we even get to the set, reading, doing all of our breakdowns, counting all our ASIP pages, you know, numbering our dialogue, all the different things that we do, and that we really do know this script inside and out. And I just wish, you know, because I have actually had directors say, oh, wow, look at all that you did. I'm like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do, before you start working on a script. So sometimes, you just don't really know how much they know and how much they don't know, especially if they're new directors, you just don't know. So it's nice to know that they appreciate all the time and effort that you've put into it before you got to their set in your chair. So that's it.
Definitely. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Hot topic. All right.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow on to what Penny was saying, it's not just the work that we've done, but they don't realize that we've actually imagined the whole film already in our heads.
Right.
We've done that with our script timing. Like a lot of us, I'm sure we all acted out ourselves. Like we've actually sort of played every part and said every word. So we have, it takes, incredible amount of focus and imagination, but we already have the film in our heads before we've rolled the first shot, so because of that, we're able to see if something is missing or something doesn't quite match, or maybe something is kind of like realized in a very different way to how we imagined it, which kind of informs, how we can sort of like, move forward and progress, but I think a lot of people don't even realize that we do a script timing,
Right.
and then sometimes, when a director is like blocking a scene, and then there's like something awkward where something doesn't quite sort of work, and I said like, yeah, like when I did my script timing, I kind of felt I needed more time to sort of do this. And they're kind of like, oh, like, what do you mean by that? It's like, because I've kind of physically gone through the motions of this, so I always find it amazing that people sort of don't even realize that.
I think a lot of our audience is like, wait, what? What's a script? A script timing? You act it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we keep
Every
track.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to also say, like, I say all the lines out loud because I want to hear what they
Yes.
sound like out. Yeah. And it's like, I want to hear it. And I can tell immediately when a writer has said the lines out loud or not, because of how like awkward a sentence is, or I'm like, there's no way someone would say that. Or I'm like, wow, this is a really good monologue. This sounds like something someone would say. This is the essence of the character, like Don was saying. Like, I see this as preserving the character, forwarding the story. This is phenomenal. So I always say all my lines out loud in my timing as well. And I look crazy to my cat, but it works out.
Right.
Absolutely. And I feel that when you do that, you really kind of feel the rhythm of like the writing as well, because like some stories have particular sort of rhythm, or even not just in the writing, but, the sort of rhythm of the scene and where the beats are, I kind of find it really sort of informs me, like what beats are important and, like what goes together, and the sort of the momentum and energy of the scene. I don't feel you can sort of really feel that if you're just reading it sort of like in your head, some things need to sort of like come out.
Exactly.
Definitely. Awesome. Okay. Moving on, a question for Shadia, but feel free to jump in, everyone, as well. What frustrates you the most about being a script supervisor?
I think it's really about picking and choosing what you say and when you say it. A lot of times I want to like right off the bat and be like, that's wrong. I know that's wrong, but I know like there's a way to say it. And because like a director is just so overwhelmed by all the things that are going on, and to say things in a way that's not defensive, but to say it in a way of like, hey, do you want to take a look at this? Or not an accusatory way, because a lot of times I'll notice something and I'll look around and think like, is anyone else catching this? And they're not. So you want to speak up, but I think it's just figuring out a way of like how to finesse your words, and each person's different, and just figuring out like, well, what's the best way I can have this point come across and they'll really hear me, rather than just want to be like defensive about it and just, snap back and say, no, you're not wrong.
That's a really good point, because there is an art to how you communicate some of these challenges on set. Anyone else?
I'll talk on that because, I think that when you do television and every 8 to 10 days you get a new director, you start to learn how to approach people, and everyone, you have to be able to read the room. I would say that one of the biggest things to think about, like especially the director, if he's sitting there, he's looking, and he says cut, well, right then he has notes in his head that he sees. And so if you interrupt his process, sometimes you can even see it if you've spoken too soon, that you just jarred them out of their zone. So it is about learning how to read the room and to read that person that you're sitting next to. And so it is best to be quiet, and get your thoughts together. It's like, okay, so I need to like say this, I'm gonna give him a moment to like do whatever he's doing. And then, I start usually with the question, say, I just start with the question, whatever that may be, and an open-end question. But yeah, it just takes time and takes practice. But I think when you start from a position of being quiet and not saying anything,
listen.
Yeah, we have to have big listening skills.
Yes.
And that's something you have to learn from, director to director, because their process is very different, so a lot of times, we know immediately what's wrong with the take and we know how to fix it, but it's not about who says it first. Sometimes you need to let the director process that and come to the same conclusion that you already know, and it's like, if they're not seeing what you see, then you find the moment to sort of like bring it up to them, but like I remember sort of like when I first started out, I kind of like, when I would see the problems, I would bring them up immediately, but timing is so important. And I think actually sort of like psychology is actually sort of like a really good background to script supervising, like, what Dawn was saying about reading the room. Like, you really have to have a lot of intuition about, when is the right moment to bring something up, and sort of like judge whether it's going to be helpful or not helpful. And it might not be helpful right now, but maybe in a couple of takes, it might be helpful. You have to sort of let things take their course, with the person that's directing, but also with the what's happening in the moment and in this particular, situation, in this particular problem that maybe the actor is having or something like that. And that's something that you can only sort of like really judge by sort of like from your experience working with people and sort of like and knowing, what's happening from project to project, because every project is different and every scene is different. And, sometimes you might have really stressful days, sometimes you might have very relaxed days, and it's like, we just have to sort of ride it all, and hopefully sort of, like speak up when it's the appropriate moment.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I'm so grateful for my psychology degree. See, it does come in handy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my communications classes I took really help, and knowing like a little bit of manners too. When I took that Randy Feldman class, she was like, maintain your manners on set because you will use them so much more than you think, and it's true.
Yeah, totally. So the next question is for Ashley. What was your favorite, or maybe least favorite, part of working on the show Atlanta?
I think I have to pick favorite out of that one because it's like one of the best jobs that I've ever had. So, and I think the thing I liked about it most was I felt like I loved the environment that we were working in the sense that the people that we were working with just had everybody seemed to have a great, like, just sometimes you get on a job and it just doesn't happen very much, but where you just feel the chemistry among all the different people, very, collaborative, but and it was very playful, people looking for magic to happen like on set, but like in a really fun way, and I think that's reflected in the show. And it was just really like, I've laughed so much, and I really like working on jobs like that, because they are also I find with the comedic stuff that I've done, that you also have to be really like on top of like where they've taken it too. Like you kind of have to keep track of all the different kind of variations of the jokes in a way, to kind of, when you're when you come back to cover something, go like, are we gonna do this one? Are we gonna do that one? Or this one was super funny, please let's do it, you know, stuff like that. And so I think like, that was the thing that I liked about it most. Yeah.
Nice. We're gonna do a bit of a transition. It's another anyone, everyone question, but we're gonna talk about the pandemic. How has this changed the job of the script supervisor? How has your life changed in the world of working on set?
I don't think it's changed anything except you have to wear that darn mask. You know,
Yeah.
I remember the first day that I went on set and had to wear the mask, because we're used to sitting there, and in between time is when we do and catch up on our work. And that's really the time that you need to go take a break with your mask. And so I went like almost 3 hours without taking they were breaks, but you know, I just didn't leave, and because I'm used to doing my work. And then with the mask, you need the oxygen. You really, really do. So I think that that part was the hardest. And then I've gotten used to that. And then there's people who went remote. So it ended up being an extension to the craft. So now you can say, like, if they go out of town for 1 day or 2 days and they don't want to take you, we can now say, hey, let's do this remote. We all know how to do remote now. And so that's an extension of it. But for me, it hasn't changed except to learn how to like go and take the breaks with the mask. The work is the same. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Work is the same. Yeah.
I will say it's very difficult giving lines when you have PPE on, especially, you know, when like, you know, directors are in the middle of their zone and actors are in the middle in their present mindset, and giving a line is so difficult through the thing, you know, the shield mask and the everything. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, and I didn't realize how much I read lips too when I'm watching the monitor. It's
right.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah.
I would say the biggest difference for me is that like currently I have to have a separate monitor to the director because of sort of COVID restrictions. You know, I'm working on a job where we don't have to wear face shields, but, you know, kind of earlier on in the pandemic, like, you know, we were separated and, you know, with the mask and the face shields. Now on the job I'm on, we don't have to wear the face shields, but I'm still sort of like separate from the director, you know, but I always sort of go over and sort of like check in with them, you know, but it's not the same as always sharing the same monitor. I think on some jobs, it depends on job to job, you know, and how relaxed or how strict the production is, you know, but, you know, if when you're with them sort of all the time, you know, you can sort of intuit just from the way they sort of like inhale whether they liked something or not, you know, which is different than sort of like, you know, checking in every take, you know. So hopefully that's gonna change, you know, in the next few months, and it'll be a bit more relaxed. You know, I don't feel it's stopping me from talking to the director because I'm very mobile anyway, you know, but I sort of do miss that sort of like close relationship that's kind of like fostered over many hours, over, you know, many days and weeks, you know. It's there, but just not as much as it was, you know, if we were sitting in the same monitor.
It's like remote. I have no idea what the director thinks anymore. If I do a remote job, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I mean, if they don't say it verbally, and it's that it's true that you can just tell when your director's happy or when they're upset.
Yes.
Yes. But then I'm like staring at a Zoom screen that's the camera feed, and I'm like, I hope they like this.
You can tell from their body language. You can tell so much.
I think I'm a lot more aware spatially of like where I'm standing now, because before I would just like crowd the monitor with everybody else, and now I'm a lot more aware of like how much space I'm taking up. But I think one of the hardest things is because I'm wearing a mask and the actors, they don't see like what you look like, or you don't get to see what the director looks like, you kind of lose that closeness because we're always working so closely together, and because they don't see what I look like and I don't know what they look like, there's this like separation there, which, you know, kind of stinks right now.
Yeah, because we can sort of like end up having very intimate relationships with the actors, and you know, and that trust that, you know, comes from that, you know, so it definitely is a barrier for that.
Yeah, I had one job, the first job in the pandemic, where we were shooting at the LED stage, and it was a smaller stage, and there was only a certain amount of people that were allowed inside, and they decided that I was not one of them. I was like, oh God, I was, you know, with the walkie, like, did you like that take? What did you, what are the notes? It was like, oh, so much easier when you can be together.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Back to some individual questions, guys. This one is for Sharon. What advice would you give someone who looks at what you've accomplished and wants to do the same?
Just diligence and persistence. It's a hard job. I'm not gonna lie. It's very intense, and you know, the way that we work now, I think the workload grows ever bigger and even more intense. You know, and I mentioned earlier, like one of the best things about it is that you have this autonomy as a one-person department, but that's also means that you have to deal with everything yourself, you know. So you're often, you know, you're in a high stakes position, you know. It's kind of, you're in the firing line every day, and you have to be like super on top of your stuff to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, you know. So you have to bring your A game every day, you know. You know, but if you're able to do that, and you're able to sort of juggle the ups and downs and the stresses and the workload, you know, and kind of emerge from every project stronger and more resilient, then that will get noticed, you know. That will sort of make you stand out, you know. But like we discussed before, it's also a very interpersonal job. You know, we sort of work very closely with actors, directors, personalities, egos, and all of that. So we have to not only be aware of the details of our work, but also the bigger picture, you know, whether, you know, we're being helpful, whether we're being productive, you know, or whether, you know, something we say might not help right at this moment, you know. But I think the real measure, I think, of a script supervisor is kind of like how we sort of deal with ourselves on set. I think it's really easy to sort of kind of be all about the notes and whether we have the best system about the notes, but that's really just a part of the job, you know. It's really about, like, you know, like whether a script supervisor is worth their weight in gold is kind of like how they sort of deal with situations on set, and how they sort of judge you know, solutions and problems and communication and all that kind of stuff. And everyone has a different style, you know. Some people are very, you know, have a very big presence. Some people are very vocal. Some people are more like low key, you know, kind of like sort of more subtle. You know, we all have different personalities, so we all work in different ways, you know. So I think that our experience and our style, you know, that's kind of what creates our reputation, you know. And I think that you know, you should follow what you love. Like if you love comedy, you know, if you love drama, if you love features, if you love episodic, like you know, network television, or maybe long form, like limited television, you know, like look out for those projects, look out for the people that make those projects, you know. And hopefully you'll be able to put yourself in a position to be ready when, you know, opportunity comes your way to sort of to take that, you know, because I think we all want to work on things that we have an affinity to as well, you know. So you know, you want to work on what you love, you know. So yeah, just persistence, you know, that's key.
Yes, and send me all the comedy jobs. Okay.
I know you like comedy.
I was a stand-up for 6 years, you know, so I think. So Hannah, question for you. You've been sharing your journey of script supervising online for a while now, and you get a lot of appreciation on IG. What motivates you to share, and how did you start? I know you used to have like a website that shared all of your, you know, days on set. So what started that, and talk about it for a second.
Yeah, I did start as a writer, so I wanted to have blog posts that kind of brought light to script supervising, but it's kind of what we've all been talking about, bringing this job more to the surface so that people know about it more and people are more aware of it. And I really like seeing other people's posts about script supervising, so I wanted to add to the community, and I wanted to debunk some myths about this job, and I wanted to encourage anybody who was thinking about it, maybe interested in getting into it, to just be like, hey, this is what I do. These are some screen grabs. This is obviously tip of the iceberg stuff. Also, I'm really, really proud of the work I do, and I want to scream it at the top of the roof and just be like, hey, we pulled this one off, like filmmaking is fun. And I absolutely love what I do. And I want everyone to have that same feeling with their work. So I encourage other people to post too. But I guess the inherent reason I post so much about work is to really let people know that this is what I do, and kind of learn from my process too. Because, we're all doing our notes in a different format. And if you can take something from me that'll help you out, like, go for it. Or, if somebody notices something like, hey, I use this instead of this, it just kind of opens that conversation up to talking about it. So yeah, I guess that's why I share. I really like this job.
Awesome. I love it. Everybody follow Hannah on Instagram.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next question is for Dawn. I know you were a part of the 2018 Local 871 Real Equity Gender Bias Study that proved gender bias and pay discrimination towards script supervisors and other predominantly female roles. My question is, has anything changed since the study? And what can we do as script supervisors, as filmmakers, even the audience members here, to move that needle forward towards this necessary change?
All your questions are loaded, child, but they're so loaded. Okay, yes, we did the study, and and if no one has seen the study, go to Real Equity, REEL equity.org, and there's a summary, and then there's a full-blown
Sport.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so what happened is that, for me, I would have to just say for me, is that it opened my eyes that I was not asking enough money. We are socialized not to negotiate. So the first thing that I would say for script supervisors, or really for anybody out there, is to learn how to negotiate. Women in particular are not socialized to negotiate. So we need to open our mouths and understand our worth and ask for more money. Because we have been doing that, I believe that the needle is moving. And so I think from the study, a lot of people, they know, when you talk to producers, they know that they're not paying enough. Some of them know and some of them don't know. But I think that if you are working with the same people time after, again, you got 2, 3, or 4 projects with somebody, then you need to start asking for more money. So I wasn't asking for more money either, because we are not socialized to do it. It's kind of uncomfortable, depending on if you're on a TV series, you might only be negotiating once a year, so you get out of the habit and stuff like that. I think as a whole, of our industry as a whole, we are from the top. They're saying, hey, we've got to diversify, we've got to include more people, and so with that also, we can't forget about the monies, and a lot of men are socialized to negotiate. Women are not. So we need to start to, even if it's on your own, to go and start learning about negotiating and not being afraid to, every time that you go in to, get your job and you're talking deal memo, is to ask for more. Just ask for more.
Right.
Yeah.
You may not get it, but let's go for this, so they can kind of trickle you down. But if you just say, if they offer you something, and that's all you do.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And it's one of the topics that we are going to have on the podcast. And I did notice, I have both women and men on the podcast. And I did notice there is a difference when I had addressed that conversation with some of the male script supervisors. It wasn't a thing like it was with some of the female script supervisors who were like, oh yeah, and the guys are like, oh yeah, you don't pay me for prep. I'm going to show up on the set and I'll read the script there. And I was like,
Well, I think that for us as this particular craft is that we have not had those type of discussions. And like, you know, some people are negotiating for parking spaces and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that you can
Right.
negotiate for. But yeah,
Right.
you know, we need to do that more.
And not just asking for more, like Dawn said, but just ask. You know, I think a lot of what Dawn was saying about not being conditioned, like we're just kind of conditioned to suck it up. You know, we made a deal to do this job, and then suddenly we get all these revisions, and we think that we can't renegotiate. Absolutely, you can renegotiate. You know, so you need to sort of assess your work and how you do it, and realize that it's valuable and that you bring value to the project. You're being hired to do a particular thing that nobody else on the crew is going to do. Nobody else on the crew is going to retime the script over the weekend, but it's going to come down to you. So you're going to have to give up a day of your weekend to do it. That is worth something, you know, and they actually can't go to anybody else and sort of do it because you already know the script as it is. You know what's going to change about it, you know, so that, you know, like that is worth something. You don't just have to suck it up, you know. You need to sort of constantly sort of reassess and renegotiate and have that conversation going and make your producer or your UPM realize, you know, that, you know, you measure your work and you value your work and you're being asked to be paid for that experience that you bring.
You asked the question about what can other people do and stuff like that. Is like, one, understand the value of a script supervisor. You know, we do have people out there that don't hire a script supervisor, but even for the basics of the craft is writing down what the camera shoots. It's like you should have a blueprint of what the footage that you're doing. You know, that's just the basics. And then if you get a script supervisor who's understanding filmmaking, then that's an added plus. So what other people can do is know that this is a valuable craft and that you are actually shooting yourself in the foot, not having someone on your project, no matter how small it is. Even if you're just a startup, you know, get a trainee script supervisor, because at least they've been trained to be looking out for things that you don't have no idea that you need, especially if you're just starting out. So people can just like start to like listen and look and read articles, or if you hear a script supervisor is talking or a panel like this, come and learn what we do so that you can see how valuable that we are.
Yes. I always set a you know, what I want to get out of a job once I hear about it. And so I don't go below it. And I'm just like, this is my minimum. I always try to ask for more in negotiations, because I went to the Real Equity, we had a town hall meeting a couple of years ago with the union, and I went to that and I learned about all the negotiating, and I was like, I need to really step up my negotiating game. And now doing commercials, I try to ask for more every time just to stay, you know, keep it in motion. And or if I'm doing prep on a weekend, I'm like, look, I'm charging you for a 6-day pay. I'm working. Like this is something that's happening, and going in with that confidence, but it is nerve-wracking a little bit because you're right, we aren't conditioned. I mean, I shouldn't be nervous, but I am because we're not conditioned. But every time I do it, I get a little more confident.
And more often than not, I find that producers do know that they're underpaying us and they're almost okay with it. So I've had so many people say, I know you should be paid more, but this is all we have. Almost like it cushions the blow. And so you think like, oh, okay, I guess they tried. Like, I'm just grateful that they tried and I have a job. But like, it's really true that you kind of need to push back more and be like, wait a second, hold on. You know this, then why isn't this being changed at all?
Well, doesn't pay my landlord. I can't pay them grateful rent.
Yep.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, it's worldwide. You know, I had a conversation with an assistant editor who told me that she was working on she was the boss, working on a project, and the guy, there was like two of them, but she was the boss. There was two assistant editors, but she was the boss of the other editor too. Ended up being a male. He left and something happened. Oh, they accidentally sent her his paycheck.
Oh.
And he was making more.
Yeah.
And so she had to go and she filed, you know, because it's like, We're doing the same job.
Yeah.
And they have some kind of excuses and stuff. So I think as you know, as filmmakers, as other people out there, as people that are coming into the craft, you know, negotiating and taking classes and being up on it, it's a skill. It's a skill that a lot of script supervisors, being female, you know, that we don't have. We're just not socialized, and you can use it in your everyday. You know, you don't have to. You know, I just negotiate. I have my own business, and I just negotiated with the social media manager, and like they asked for like 2,500, and I knocked it right on down. No, this is what I can do. You know, so you use that skill. You know, but yeah, it's something. I think it's a worldwide thing that is a continuing. Not a struggle, but a continued fight. It's a continued challenge, you know, and we have to learn how to speak up. And as script supervisors, we need to get together so that we can say, okay, if they say this, say that. If they say that, say this. We just need the language, and then you can make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
Can I retroactively say that's also why I post about my jobs? Because you see these directors post, these editors, you see DPs all the time, and they're like, look at this beautiful screen grab. It's like, yeah, that's super cool. Also, look at my beautiful notes. Like, I want everyone to know that this is a position on set. We should, if you know what it is and you can recognize it and make it into the mainstream, then by far we should get paid our actual rate. Yeah.
Yeah, just to go back to the one person department thing, you know, like if you don't have any sort of additional support and you are tasked with, you know, being on top of everything, you don't, as opposed to sort of alternating a job, you know, like whenever you get revisions, you have to sort of redo a lot of your work. There is only one person that's going to do that, you know, so, you know, that's something that you can sort of use to your strength. It's kind of like, okay, this amount of work just dropped in my lap. Who else is going to do it apart from me? You know, make sure that you get paid, you know, what you're worth for doing that, you know, because there's no one to delegate it to. There's no one to sort of outsource it to. There's no one to sort of like, you know, pass it on. It's all going to come down to you. So sort of make sure that, you know, the production sort of realizes that. It should be very easy to realize that because there literally is nobody else.
And I would say, I would just want to add, advocate for yourself. When I first started out, I really relied on like producers to be like, oh, they'll, if I deserve more, they'll chime it in. Or if I deserve a prep day or rap day, they'll tell me. And I've gone on so many shoots without prep or rap or any of those things. And then as the years went by, I realized, wait, I'm entitled to these things. And I was the one that had to speak it up because it is in their budget. And a lot of times I even had a producer tell me, oh, I thought we were just going to keep that prep day that you had. And I thought, wait a second, you have the budget for that. Why wouldn't you tell me? So definitely advocate for yourself, speak up, and ask the questions that you feel like you don't, even if you don't know if they'll give it to you, it's still worth mentioning it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, because they're never going to just offer it
Never.
without asking.
Unfortunately, they don't offer it.
I mean, one of the things that I've started to do in the past couple of years, and I'm hoping to sort of like to spread it to other people, is like, you know, when you're day playing, when you bring in someone to do a day for you on a television show, for example, you know, whether that's a second unit or a tandem day or a pickup unit or you know, something like that. You know, I always, it's a small thing, but I always advocate that they get paid 1 hour just to read the script, you know, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but in New York, a lot of us are just conditioned to just suck it up. You know, it's like, we're brought in for a day on my own study to make sure that I'm prepared. I'm going to read the script so that I know I'm going to be ready for the day, but no one is offering to pay you for reading that script, but you are giving up that hour. So I always make sure that at the minimum, that person is paid an hour for reading the script. And when you go to the UPM and you say, I would like my additional to come in tomorrow and be prepared at the beginning of the day, having read the script, do you agree? It is very difficult for them to say no, because of course they want that person to be prepared. And like, why would you not want the script supervisor to read the script, you know, so it's a small thing, you know, but like if we need to do this in small steps, you know, that's just a very obvious basic thing that we can do.
I like that. I'm gonna
That's good too.
Yeah, we're all gonna
Yeah.
use it. That's great.
That's really good.
Audience, get your questions in now if you want them answered. Our next loaded question, thank you, Dawn, is, you guys, let's talk about the term scripty. Loaded. So some people, this is a nickname that came a long time ago for our job, and some people embrace it and some people know that the truth of the word is not good. So let's discuss.
Well, how many people on the panel like use that name? Does anybody use
I
that?
do. It doesn't bother me. I'm trying to redefine it anyway. I don't infantile.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I've gotten used to it a long time ago. And, you know, I have a lot of respect from all the people on the set. And if somebody comes over and says, let's ask Scripty, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
It never has.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel the respect on set too. And if I don't, I'll-
Yeah.
that they're disrespecting me. Yeah.
It
There's a
doesn't bother me as
fabulous
long as they
crew here
learn
in
my
Las
name.
Vegas. Oh, right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As long as they know your name, then that's fine. But if they're not ever saying your name,
You can
that's fine.
always say, Scripty, oh, I'm Penny, you know.
Yeah. I did have a
Then they
director
get
say script supervisor very aggressively to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, like my name's Hannah. It's all
Point
about
counterpoint, anyone? Point counterpoint?
I think there's a couple of ways to think about it, because you can think about it from your own personal perspective about whether it bothers you personally. But I think, you know, we should also be aware of what it means to the craft and to us all. You know, like if we're trying to advocate, like Dawn says, for better pay, equal pay, you know, in terms of the studios and our employers, you know, you don't go to them and say, Scripty would like a couple of dollars more, you know, like that's not a way for them to take you seriously, you know. So I think, like, you know, I think we all have our individual response to it, like whether it bothers us personally. But I think like always we see this details and also the bigger picture, and I think we also have to be aware of the big picture and what that means. To me, I always want to advocate for myself, so I would like respect in the workplace, and I would like to be known as a department head. And that's a struggle when you're a one-person department, and it's a struggle when, you know, historically it's always been a female-dominated craft. It still is a female-dominated craft. There's a lot of men working in the craft, but it's still, like, you know, on the East Coast anyway, it's still very much, you know, 85-90% female, you know. So that's something just to be cognizant about, you know. And you know, Dawn, I know you have a lot more things to say. You had your hand up. No,
It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I think that what you touched on, Sharon, is correct. It's not about individually if you like it or not. It is for the collective. And so, one, on our paycheck, it says script supervisor for one. And I think, I say it like this. We're not above the line and we're not below the line. We ride the line. We sit next to the director. We deal with that camera and the DP. We talk to the actors. Our notes go to the editor, and we deal with the producer. All those people above the line. We ride the line. We really are a more executive craft, and we just haven't realized it. We know we work hard. We do a lot of work, and our work is very important. But I think having a nickname, and don't nobody else have a nickname except for craft service. And I don't never say crafty either. I've asked craft service if they like it. No, they don't like it either. They like to be, they wish they were called craft service. You just have to ask people because they don't want the confrontation. It becomes and I don't understand. Okay, I'll sit here with, and I'll equate it to like this. I'm a woman of color. There are people who want to call me a different name. I don't want to be called that name. So why are you gonna get mad that I don't want to be called that name? Never understood that. So as a script supervisor, with this craft, just it's time to elevate. We're more important than we even are showing people. They really can't do a blockbuster movie without us. We save them money and time. And like I said, we're really an executive type of craft, but we haven't realized it. We're not above the line, we're not below the line, we ride that line.
I
So
like that.
I think that when we are given a nickname, even though we personally, it doesn't matter, for the collective, for what we're asking. We're not asking for, chump change. We're saying that we should be being paid with the people that we are dealing with. And so it's just not going to go to someone with a nickname. It's just not. I think that if you ask a producer, do you want to hire a scripty or you want to hire a script supervisor, they're going to pick script supervisor every time because it commands something. So I think, Sharon, you hit it on the nail on the head. It's not about what you personally like. It's like we've got to look at the collective.
Yeah, I echo that, and what we were talking before about sort of advocating for ourselves, if we're asking for an extra camera fee, as some people are calling it, thank you. If we're advocating for that, because it multiplies our work, it's like the script supervisor is asking to be paid more for the work that just got multiplied. It's not, the director's girl Friday is asking for a little tip because, their work is getting multiplied. That's the small picture. The bigger picture is that the script supervisor's work is multiplied. The script supervisor deserves to be paid more because their work is multiplied. The script supervisor deserves to be paid the extra camera fee for that. To me, it's, whenever I hear scripty, it kind of feels like you're a script supervisor in training, so I would just say that, if you're happy with it now, think of the bigger picture, like Dawn says, on your paycheck, are you the script supervisor or the scripty? In the credits, are you the scripty or the script supervisor? So, I would just encourage you to sort of think, empower yourself and sort of value yourself and see that, not just for yourself, but for the whole craft. You should view yourself as the script supervisor, as the head of department, as a valued member of the production that brings a lot of value to that production, and that person is not, someone's little helper.
They're really good points. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You're gonna put your handle, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were gonna bring that up. Yeah. But
change when I started the Instagram for the podcast, initially I had it Scripty Pod, and then remember Dawn, and we had this whole conversation on the platform, and I was like, oh yeah, she's right, and I changed it because I'm like, yeah.
I just co-signed for someone who had left a comment. Someone had left a comment who pointed it out.
And she was right. She was right, and I changed it, and it was right. And anytime somebody on set says to me scripty, whether they're calling me scripty or referencing the job as scripty, I always say, hey, in case you didn't know, that's a derogatory term and a lot of people really take offense to it. I'm not mad for you saying that right now, but just so you're aware, maybe don't use that anymore. And a lot of times I get really good results and they go, oh gosh, I didn't know that, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. You didn't know, but now you do. And so that's what I'm doing with it.
You don't get one. You say scripty, I say script supervisor. I mean, this is the next breath. They'll say, hey, scripty or whatever. They're saying, I say script supervisor. And then they'll look at me and then they'll say script supervisor. I say, yeah, that type of a thing. Or call me script. I don't let it slide on my paperwork. They might send an envelope down and has scripty on it. I go and I ask who wrote this, and then I make sure that they understand that just call me, script is fine. I understand it's a little much to be supervisors, another 4 or 5. Okay, fine, I get it. Then just call me script, but yeah.
It's a mouthful. It is a
it's
mouthful.
It is, you know, and then I teach some people over in Europe, so SSA, that they don't like that either. For
Mhm.
So I don't do SS either, you know, for initials. So script is fine, you know, script soup, or script soup, or some people script goddess. My favorite is script supervisor. But yeah, it's for the whole craft. But individually, you know, people could do whatever. But I think if we could just start being on one accord, we've got so much that we need to do. And if we all can just give us that respect as a group, as the totality, as all script supervisors worldwide, you know, I think we're only really kind of doing it in here, but I've heard a few UK script supervisors said, yeah, they trying to bring that over there because the Americans are going over there and they just not having it.
Yeah, they don't use that term over there.
Yeah, they don't use the term, so it's not something that, you know. It's nails on the chalkboard for me. You know, it's like,
But yeah, if I find that, you know, if you do nip it in the bud, you know, as soon as someone says that and you correct them, you know, and don't make a big deal out of it, you know, then they're, you know, because oftentimes they're sort of saying it unconsciously because it's just quicker and more convenient. You know, if you consciously correct them, you know, and make them aware, you know, and I get it, you know, it's like I sort of, as long as I don't hear it, you know, I may know that you're doing it, you know, but I think the first step is for ourselves to sort of think ourselves in the right way. And that's how we can sort of think about sort of changing other people's perspective of us as well, you know, but, you know, so I would just encourage you to sort of like, just reassess like what that means to you and how you want to sort of, how people to sort of perceive you and how you want to sort of be perceived in the world, you know, especially as you're fighting for, you know, for contractual rights or better pay or, you know, for whatever, you know, like what, you know, like how do you want to command that respect?
Nice. And now,
very good, Sharon.
Oh, did you have something more to add?
Ashley didn't say anything. I was.
Well, no, I'm so glad that you talked about this because I get asked a lot. Like they're like, can we call you? And I guess I'm like, I've always been like, I hadn't really thought about it except when people ask me, and then I'm like, I don't, you know, like, so I'm really glad to hear your perspective on it because now I can answer I feel like now I can answer the question in a way that I understand and I agree with. So yeah, that's what I thought on that.
Your cat.
I know she really wants to talk to you.
We have just a few minutes left. So for the last bit, I want to talk about something that everyone I think wants to hear. Biggest continuity error that you tried to save and couldn't, or something you missed early on your career that's just total face plant? Anyone? Story? Who's got a story?
Let me see.
I guess I can tell a story about a mistake that I thought was a big mistake, but then it sort of turned out that was not the right story. But it was from, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this when, you know, they decided to do a little splinter unit shot and they decide to sort of break away and shoot something that has no script supervisor. So that's what happened to me on this movie. They sort of broke away to do some establishing shots and just some shots of the main actor sort of just doing entrances and exits, like walking into a building, walking out of an apartment, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, it was a while ago. It was an independent, like, you know, tier movie. So there was no sort of second unit script supervisor. And then the editor sort of like contacted me and said, like, how did this happen? You know, like she's walking into the building and she doesn't have her cardigan on. She's supposed to have her cardigan on, you know, and I was like, how did this happen? You know, and they were frantically, oh, we need to sort of like, you know, get the chairs they were frantically arranging to sort of get the chairs back to sort of store them, you know, that were in the exterior that we might have to reshoot it, frantically arranging to sort of get all the elements back together. And then eventually, when I got to the bottom of how that happened, it was because there was no script supervisor. So the camera department slated it incorrectly and attached it to another scene where she wasn't supposed to be wearing her cardigan. So then they thought that this shot belonged to a scene where she was wearing a cardigan. So, you know, it was kind of one of those like really silly things that it's like, if you had a script supervisor, you would not have caused this like mini drama with all this stress and everyone sort of frantically trying to, you know, I mean, they could have spent some money to do this reshoot only to find out that they didn't need to, you know. So you know, I distinctly remember that, you know, that was definitely caused by not having a script supervisor.
Whenever I'm not going to be there and they're going to shoot something, sorry, whenever I'm not on set and they go off to shoot something, they come back with information for me. I always write on the script supervisor, not on set. I always put that in my notes just so they know.
I do that too. I always either put like, there's no monitor provided, I put no images available or no script supervisor.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like I can't.
When I first started out, girl, I played hell getting monitors. It was awful. I mean, they just didn't think it was important. You know, they're on a dolly and I'm, you know, they expect me to run along with the camera, looking in the little monitor that the DP has. Mm-hmm. It was awful. I put my foot down like right away, and they started just bringing in TVs, you know, regular TVs. But you know, now everybody knows we have to have a monitor to see the framing. Hello.
It's frustrating though. Yeah.
It is. It is.
So we have a couple of audience questions.
Okay.
One of the questions, and I think I know the answer, is does everybody work digitally? Is anyone on pen and paper? I know, Shadia, you transitioned recently. I'm digital. I think everyone else is digital. Is anyone else here working paper?
Well, I still do both because I teach pen and paper. So I teach pen and paper. I usually have someone come in. My classes are 15 weeks long. Way too much time, way more than I need. So I have somebody come in from various digital programs or people that know various digital programs and show them to the students. But I feel like they have to know the guts of it and, you know, how to do all the breakdowns and everything, pen and paper. So that's how I teach.
That's how
I do both.
Good to learn that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Because then you know how to do the job. And when on set,
that's right,
computer was knocked over and broken, I had to quickly pick up my papers and continue the work and freak out.
Also a thing, you know, you never know about that. So
yeah, I've had computer failure and I've just had to keep on writing. So I'm not going to let my computer stop me. So it's just technology. No. I can still do continuity and make a movie without my computer.
That's right.
Right.
I miss having it just like, I don't know, having everything in one place. Now it's sort of, you know, in a database and it's organized, but I don't know. I miss it. I miss pen and paper. I think I would do it that way if I felt like we weren't just kind of completely moving into a digital market.
Yeah, that's happening. That's definitely happening. So.
But also it's good to be aware that there's actually a huge variety of programs and apps now. They didn't used to be, you know. But now, now you can have a database system, or you can actually find, you know, a system where it's very similar to how you work on paper in terms of marking up stuff. You're just doing with an iPad and a pencil as opposed to a clipboard, you know, and you know, a non-digital, you know, but you can find a way that is very close to how you work on paper. It's just that it's saved as a digital file, you know. So there's much more of a range of options than there used to be, say, like 10 years ago, you know. So I mean, I was still working on paper up until a couple of years ago. And, you know, it took me a while to sort of find like the system that I liked, you know, but I did that because I was doing a lot of crossboarding shows, you know. So I was working, the last show that I did on paper, I was crossboarding 12 episodes at the same time. And I have a system where for every episode, I have 2 scripts. I have the editor script and I also have my continuity script. So that's 24 scripts that I was collating on paper which I was able to do it, but it was really crossboarding that made me transition and find a better way, you know. But I would say I still have a system where I very much rely on stuff like, you know, writing and scribbling, you know, it's just done.
I do too. It's hard for me to give up. Like if I watch, like when I'm watching, everyone's like, oh, you should, you know, like you're doing your work twice. You need to, and I think it's probably better for workflow to just input it as you're watching. I can't do it. Like I'm with a clipboard taking in all the information on pen and paper. I don't know, that's the way I learned. And so it just sort of feels like more comfortable. So that's sort of the last in my digital transition that I don't know if I'm gonna, talk to me in a year, maybe I will have given it up, but it's been 4 years. I'm still writing it down and then putting it in, which is, I don't know. There's a better workflow. I don't know. Does anybody?
Yeah, it is like
struggle with that?
Well, when you're working on more than one episode at a time, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. So I've had that happen a lot.
So I started typing my work early on. I've been typing my work since 1994. I'm old school secretary. So for me, so the presentation of my paperwork is very important to me. And like I am a typist and stuff like that. So what you're doing is that you should stick with what you're doing as far as writing it down and transitioning, because that's really the way that it should be done. I went 15 years until someone said, you know, you don't even like write it down. And that particular day, I did not even know that I transitioned straight into typing it. So I feel that you should always write it and then you transfer in between time. Now what you write can be a little bit shorter, a shorter hand kind of thing.
Version.
You don't have to like write it all out, but you know.
Right, yeah.
Thing, but transferring it is really the best. They say scientifically you learn something better for when you write something out. It's something that has to do with the hand doing it and the eye doing it and your brain. It makes you better.
It makes you ingest the information in a way. I don't know. I mean, I read that too and I was like, oh, thank you. I felt so validated because I feel that when I do it, but everybody has a different way of working, and that's, you know, in all of them.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really understand that, like I said, scientifically, it is better for us to be writing it out and then and being able to, if the computer goes down or does whatever, that, you know, you can just pull out your little and just keep on going. But yeah, one of the things that I heard, you know, is that a lot of the, you know, you have newer script supervisors, you have younger script supervisors who are grew up with the computer. So they already, you know, it's at the end of the, so they don't even think about that. But still scientifically in 2021, they're still saying writing it down with your hand makes you learn better, no matter.
Right.
So.
Right, I agree with that, yeah.
So yeah, so it is learning how to you always write it down first.
Yeah.
It depends what I'm on though. Sometimes like if I'm a narrative TV shows, I'm always writing and then typing my notes in after. But then it's like if I'm on commercials, I'm a little bit more digital. I guess it depends on what the show demands or the project.
Yeah, I'm talking long for, I would say for TV and films and stuff like that. Yeah, commercials move a lot faster, so it's easier. But if you're just starting out typing, it's like take like maybe the production report first. You know, you can just do and prep and all like that kind of stuff and slowly build into it. Or you get the software, you know, you pick which software, because there is a lot of software out there, and then you take an old job and you type it up. You know, you just type it up to learn how to math, and you should master whatever it is that you pick. You know, because I don't use none of what's out there. I basically use a database. You know, and then also you have to think about what type of project are you on, because that metadata, they may be using it. You know, they may, you know, me personally, I don't think that if I'm on the set and I'm writing down all this stuff, that the editor has to go and copy and paste it and put it in their thing. I want to give them a digital file that they all have to do is import.
Yeah.
So that it's time saving. But see, a lot of times people don't understand or follow their work into the editing room to see how they're utilizing their work. And if you start doing that,
Right.
every project, I can probably count on one hand how many projects that I have never went into the editing. I always follow my work. And when I go in there, I see how they utilize my work, and I'm able to see what they're doing and what their latest and greatest software or whatever that they're doing. So I can make sure that what I am doing is actually helping them and not hampering them, and that they're not throwing it out, but they are actually utilizing the work. So it takes a little bit, a lot of script supervisors, either not trained to do that or not taught to do that. But for me, I'm more, because I had a secretarial background, I needed to know what paperwork was doing, who was handling it, and when. And then I may make my system accordingly.
So it is clear that we could have another 17 hours of this conversation, and I'm loving every bit of it. And I have so many more questions. But the sad truth is we do have to wrap it up because we have a time limit and we are there. And I just want to thank everybody on the panel for your amazing contributions, this wonderful conversation. It is so great to have everybody together and sharing all of our knowledge. And I know it's appreciated by me and everybody who was in the audience. And before we go, we have a special treat, you guys. It is a preview of the intro song for the podcast Script Supervisors, Unsung Heroes of Film and TV, and you are going to hear some voices that you might recognize. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Caryn. Yeah.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
They didn't catch this one mistake, and it's like, well, you didn't say anything about the hundreds of things that I did catch.
Script supervisor.
Script supervisor.
Script supervisor.
Script supervisors.
She called back and she goes, dude, you do not want to be a script supervisor. This job sucks. Just be a dolly grip. You'll be a lot happier.
There are some jobs that are like butter and you're just like, this is my cup of tea and this is so great. There are some jobs that are just nightmares.
We just don't take notes and match everything.
You're always working hard and you're taking pictures and you're writing stuff.
You're working during your lunchtime to catch up.
Running around doing all these weird things.
Continuity.
You're just right in the middle of everything all the time.
They have no idea how complicated it is.
Even people on set don't know how hard we work and how much we do.
It's like trying to be in a bar fight and expect everything to go as planned. You have to roll with the punches, literally.
What am I doing? Why am I doing this?
Why would you want to become a script supervisor?
I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore.
Script supervisors are really an amazing group of people.
We are department head number 1.
It's not just about me. I'm there to be Robin to their Batman.
There's really very few other things I could even think to do if I couldn't do what I'm doing.
Say they're unsung heroes of film and TV.
The unsung hero. I kind of like that.
Script supervisor.
Script supervisor.
Script supervisor.
Script supervisors.
Nice.
Very cute.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.